telling a simple story. Here's a little anecdote. Someone asked the Divine Mother one day, how do we know when it's our mind speaking and when it's our heart speaking? And she answered very quickly, without any hesitation, with the question, what comes first? And an example of this is, I'm standing over the sink with my mixing bowl making a cake, and the thought arises, ring your sister. And then you think, I'm in the middle of making a cake and I've got an appointment, I've got to get it in the oven, and you know what your sister's like, if you talk to her she can talk for hours. So you say, I'll ring her later, or you do it. What came first? So this just sets the tone for this little story. But let's see how they relate together. The story of a king, and he was a very fair king, enlightened, you might say, even. He cared for his people deeply. He ensured that the crops and that there were funds available for them to plant seeds. He listened to their grievances every day. He had his army at the ready to see that they weren't invaded. But he had thoughts. Every time he solved a problem, there was another problem to solve. He never had any time. He never had any peace. So he became rather depressed. So he decided to go and visit his guru, an old sage who lived up in the mountains, very simply in a cave with little. And when he arrived there, the king bared his heart to this sage, saying, I have no time, I'm so sad, I feel I'm a failure. Every time I solve something, every time a problem is reconciled, there's another one to deal with. Oh, said the sage, well, just give it all up and come home here and live with me. But the king said, if I do that, what will happen to my kingdom? It will fall into anarchy, the people will not be taken care of, everything will fall to pieces. And so the sage said, oh, well, bequeath it to your son. And the king said, but my son is only 8 years old. He is not able to take care of the kingdom anyway. So the sage said, well, why don't you give it to me? And all of a sudden, the king felt as though like a weight was being lifted. Oh, he said, would you take over my kingdom? Yes, yes, said the sage, give it to me. Oh, the king was overjoyed. He suddenly felt that his heart was lighter. And the sage said, well, let's just have a little ritual. He said, go and get a bowl of water. So the king went and got a bowl of water, and they ritualistically washed their hands in it, and then finished their little ritual by the sage accepting the kingdom. Well, when that little ritual was over, the king felt like he'd never felt in his life before. He felt like all the weight had been lifted off him. And the sage said to him, what are you going to do now? The king said, well, I really haven't thought about it. Maybe I'll take my queen and my son and we'll go off to a new place and I might start a business. Oh, the sage said, well, pretty soon it'll be the same thing as what's happening in the kingdom. The king thought to himself, well, yes, that's very true, yes. Sage said, well, the first thing I want you to do before you pack up and move on, when you get back to your kingdom, would you please choose a suitable person to take care of the king? The king said, well, you mean you're not coming to the palace to take care? Oh, said the sage, saints don't do that. I'm a saint. Saints don't do that. Said you have to find a suitable person to take over. Oh, said the king, but there's nobody. There's nobody with the qualifications. The sage said, well, do you think you've got those qualifications? The king said, well, yes, I'm the most suitable person. I've had the experience, I know all about the running of the kingdom. Oh, said the sage, well, why don't you act as my servant and take care of everything for me? Oh, said the king, yes, I can do that. And the sage said, well, just keep wearing your kingly regal gowns and everything because it all fits you, And he said, but, drop the trappings and the pomp and ceremony, live simply, like I do. So I said, well, go off and do your duty, and if you've got any real problems, just confer to me. I'll be glad to help you, but take care of things as best you can. And the king went off as happy as anything, and no word was heard from the saint. The saint didn't hear from him at all for some long time, so the saint went off to the palace to see how the king was going, and there he found him living simply. All the pomp and ceremony had been dropped. All the luxuries had been let go of. The kingdom was running very nicely, if you don't mind. So the saint said, well, how is my kingdom going? And the king said, well, it's doing very well, thank you very much. And the saint said, well, how are you? He said, well, the king said, I feel wonderful. I have no responsibilities. I'm just doing the work for you. Oh, said the saint, well, you haven't even come to ask me any. Oh, no, said the king, it all gets taken care of. Oh, said the saint, well, just keep doing what you're doing, but continue to take care of my kingdom very well, but remember, it's mine, and in deference to. Oh, said the king, I am forever your servant. Of course, they all lived happily ever after. But what is this story got to do with Divine Mother's anecdote about what comes first to my dad? Someone asked me on Sunday, or they said to me on Sunday, oh, I know, you like to play with our minds. And I said, yes. But really, one doesn't make real what's not real, and the mind is not real. I didn't like to say, oh, maybe I'm just an old witch putting ingredients in the pot and stirring them, but I thought that might freak them out, so I didn't say that. But, coming back to this question, in the immediacy of it, what is it that arises from you that could be a relationship between this little anecdote of what it is that comes first and the story of the king? It's this saint and servant thing, isn't it? And now for us we've erased any notion that there's something out there guiding us all, some God pulling the strings. So it really comes back to this, the question that's been asked over these last days. What is this place we find ourselves when the mind has no place to rest? could it be that it's as simple as living a life with the recognition that there's no space, there's no questions between what it is that arises to do and the doing? Could it be that these two relate to stillness and movement? What was it about the king that changed his life when nothing really changed? He was still a king. What's the relationship between his anecdote and his story?
Because before his mind did it all, didn't it? He got so caught in his mind, and then when the sage took that away, so to speak, then he just did he just did it without thinking at all. So it was just like that.
Immediately he was just living, doing.
Without analysing
or questioning or worrying. All the anxiety was taken away.
And his heart had been in it in the first place.
Yes.
His heart was always in it.
Yes.
It was his heart's work. It was his heart's purpose to do that. But the trappings of the king, the trappings of the mind, sort of came in and took over, so that he needed those stripped away again.
Yes. And could it be this sense of responsibility? Someone came yesterday, and this is what we're dealing with this a sense of responsibility that burdens, colours, brings about rebellions, because you want to, like a head shirt, you want to get rid of it. And all of a sudden the king's responsibilities, there weren't any responsibilities anymore.
Somebody else carries the last buck.
Somebody else carries it. But what is it in the end? And this is a dilemma for us. And it comes back to the little anecdote about the family. We know there's no sage, saint there that's taking over from us. So it brings us back to this question, where are we now? When all of the conditionings of mind have been taken away. But we get up, put down our wooden spoon, go to the fern, pick up our sisters, and we have an interaction with them, and it's done. Oh, I was wanting to call you, she says, because this and this and this is going on. And it's finished. So we never have any unfinished business. Never. Do we?
There's always something else that arises anyway.
Of course.
It's constant,
Of
isn't
course.
it? Like the king. There's always something, you just finish something and then something else comes. And
Yes.
so
Yes.
we can either sweat it or
Yes.
or not. Or,
Absolutely.
and listen, I suppose, listen to ourselves. It's like that fellow who pretended to be a guru.
Yes.
And he
Yes.
told
Yes.
everybody, you are the guru.
Yes. 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 And then pulled the rug out from under their feet.
And they realised they'd been doing it all
All along.
themselves.
Anyway. Yeah.
And that's where our rest comes from, because we don't have responsibility.
We don't have responsibilities. No.
So it doesn't have to come from outside. Time to rest, always looking for that time. You don't need it from out.
We don't need to time out. A place to go, a holiday.
That's
if you-
lucky.
You haven't booked one.
I suppose if you're not carrying the burden, you're not carrying the weight of it, and so
But you're not carrying the stress and
the
all
stress
that.
and all that. So
Up to it.
yeah. So if you're just doing what arises, that's what makes us tired, doesn't it? All that
Certainly does.
chains.
Relational stones we drag along behind us, and the lodestones and so on. Yeah.
Past.
And the mind isn't delving. That's because that's what came to me, that word rest. Where does the mind go when it has nowhere to roost?
Yes.
And I went, oh, it rests. It's like sometimes I could feel my mind just out there, not really connected with what's really going on. It's like it bounces across the surface now and goes, oh, that's interesting. Oh, and even the question, where does the mind go when it has nowhere to roost? That's in my mind constantly now.
Yes.
So as soon as I start getting into something, like boring into something, that question comes up and I'm out of it. Again, I'm out. I'm more out of my mind than I am in
And
it.
in the movement of it, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And yet we have this phenomena of our senses. Does the nose ever stop smelling? The ears ever stop hearing? They don't. So, in that instance, we recognize that the mind is always going to be there, doing its job like our nose does its job, our ears do their job. But there's a very great difference now, isn't there? Just like our smelling is immediate and our hearing is immediate, so too is our mind immediate.
Because we often get caught up in concepts of what that means, and what that silence
We
means, or what
don't need to,
that means, or what that
because the mind is going to come in and do its job. Oh, I'm smelling the roses, or I'm smelling something burning on the stove. It's its job to put together. Oh, yeah. Oh, I remember I put the peas on 4 hours ago and I forgot.